Treatment of acute myeloid leukemia. So, treatment of the newly diagnosed patient with acute myeloid leukemia. So, this is usually divided into uh, two phases. So, one is induction and other is post remission management or consolidation. So, newly diagnosed patients with AML. So, treatment is divided into two phases. So, one is induction and other is post remission management. So, the initial goal is to induce complete remission. What is the goal? First, to induce complete remission. So once complete remission is obtained, so further therapy must be given to prolong survival and achieve cure. First thing is complete remission. So once complete remission is obtained, what is the further therapy? To prolong the survival and to achieve the cure. The initial induction treatment and subsequent post remission therapy are chosen based on the age of the patient, overall fitness, as well as cytogenetic or molecular risk. So, the initial induction treatment and the subsequent post remission therapy, so they are chosen based on the patient's age, overall fitness, and cytogenetic or molecular risk. Intensive therapy with cytarabine and or anthracycline in younger patients less than 60 years increases the cure rate of AML. So, if we give intensive therapy with cytarabine and anthracycline, so in younger patients, that is less than 60 years, so this will increase the cure rate of AML. In older patients, the benefit of intensive therapy is controversial. In all but favorable risk patients, novel approaches for selecting patients predicted to be responsive to treatment and new therapies are being pursued. So, in older patients, the benefit of this intensive therapy is controversial, but this can be given in favorable risk patients. And additional options for therapy have emerged for older AML patients. So, what are the additional options for older AML patients? Like addition of the BCL2 antagonist venetoclax to one of several low intensity chemotherapies. So now we also have the addition options for therapy. So these have emerged for older AML patients, such as addition of the BCL2 antagonist venetoclax to one of the several low intensity chemotherapies, and likewise novel oral drugs targeting IDH1 or IDH2, that is targeting isocitrate dehydrogenase 1 or 2, so alone or in combination with low intensity chemotherapy. So they may be considered as initial therapy for older patients who have mutations in those respective pathways. So in older patients, we can add this BCL2 antagonist venetoclax to one of the low intensity chemotherapy regimens or oral drugs which target this IDH1 or IDH2. This can be given alone or in combination with the low intensity chemotherapy patients, along with low intensity chemotherapy. Induction chemotherapy. So what are the most commonly used induction regimens for patients other than those with acute promyelocytic leukemia? So the most commonly used induction regimens for patients other than those with acute promyelocytic leukemia. So this consists of combination chemotherapy with cytarabine and anthracycline. A cytarabine as well as an anthracycline. So example of anthracycline include daunorubicin and idarubicin. So what is the combination chemotherapy? Cytarabine and anthracycline. So example daunorubicin and idarubicin. So cytarabine, so this is a cell cycle S phase specific anti-metabolite. So that becomes phosphorylated intracellularly to an active triphosphate form that interferes with DNA synthesis. So if we take the cytarabine, so this cytarabine, it is a cell cycle S phase specific anti-metabolite. So it becomes phosphorylated intracellularly. So this after phosphorylation, it is converted into an active triphosphate. So this interferes with the DNA synthesis. Anthracyclines, see, these are DNA intercalators. So what are anthracyclines? Anthracyclines are DNA intercalators. Their primary mode of action, so this is thought to be inhibition of the topoisomerase 2, leading to DNA breaks. So what is the primary mode of action of anthracycline? So this is thought to be inhibition of the topoisomerase 2, so this leading to DNA breaks. So in adults, cytarabine used at standard dose, that is 100 to 200 mg per meter square. So what is the cytarabine dose? Standard dose, hundreds, 100 to 200 mg per meter square. So this is administered as a continuous intravenous infusion for 7 days. So cytarabine 100 to 200 mg per meter square. So this is administered as a continuous intravenous infusion for 7 days. With cytarabine, anthracycline therapy generally consists of daunorubicin. Daunorubicin is below 100, 60 to 90 mg per meter square, or idarubicin 12 mg per meter square intravenously on day 1, 2 and 3. So this is called the 7 and 3 regimen. With cytarabine, anthracycline therapy generally consists of daunorubicin, that is it is 60 to 90 mg per meter square, or idarubicin 12 mg per meter square. So this is given intravenously on days 1, 2 and 3, the 7 and 3 regimen. So other agents can be added, example gemtuzumab ozogamycin. So when 60 mg per meter square of daunorubicin is used. So other agents can be added, example gemtuzumab ozogamycin when 60 mg per meter square of daunorubicin is used. With the 7 and 3 regimen, it is now clearly established that 45 mg per meter square dosing of daunorubicin results in inferior outcomes. So patients should receive higher doses. So if we use a less dose of daunorubicin, 45 mg per meter square, so this will result in inferior outcome. So this is why patients should receive higher doses. Patients failing remission after one induction, they are offered re-induction with the same or a slightly modified therapy. That is, after one induction therapy, patients have failed that one induction therapy, so they should be offered re-induction with the same, or patient can be given a slightly modified therapy. The CD33 targeting immunoconjugate, this is gemtuzumab ozogamycin. So what is this gemtuzumab ozogamycin? So this is a CD33 targeting immunoconjugate. The CD33 targeting immunoconjugate gemtuzumab ozogamycin. So this may be added to induction therapy for subsets of patients, especially those with CBF AML. So a subset of patients who are having the CBF AML, so they can be given gemtuzumab ozogamycin along with induction therapy. And then coming to the older patients. So in older patients, age greater than or equal to 60 to 65 years, the outcome with conventional intensive therapy is generally poor due to high frequency of resistant disease and increased rate of treatment related mortality. Older patients, with the conventional intensive therapy, older patients with conventional intensive therapy, outcome is poor. Why? Because of frequency of resistant disease and increased rate of treatment related mortality. So this is especially true in patients with prior hematological disorders, that is patient who had prior hematological disorders like MDS or myeloproliferative neoplasms, or patient would have taken some treatment which had led to therapy related AML, or cytogenetic and genetic abnormalities which had an adverse clinical outcome. But still, no, even in these patients, like patients who have had a resistant disease or still fare better treatment with treatment. They can fare better than with supportive treatment. So even in older individuals, this treatment can be given. So conventional therapy for fit older patients. If older patients are fit, it is similar to that of the younger patients. That is same like 7 and 3 regimen with standard dose cytarabine and idarubicin 12 mg or daunorubicin 60. For patients age greater than 65 years, high dose daunorubicin, that is 90 mg per meter square, has increased toxicity and it is not recommended. So greater than 65 years, high dose, that is 90 mg, it is not recommended. A novel liposomal preparation of cytarabine and daunorubicin in a fixed molar ratio may instead be administered to fit patients with AML with myelodysplasia related changes or arising from MDS. So those patients who have this myelodysplasia related changes or AML arising from MDS, so they can be given a novel liposomal preparation of cytarabine and daunorubicin in a fixed molar ratio. Older patients and those who are not able to receive this intensive therapy, so those are for the fit patients. But older patients, if they're old and if they're not fit, if they can't receive this intensive therapy due to medical comorbidity, they may receive repetitive cycles of lower intensity therapy with a hypomethylating agent. That is decitabine or azacitidine, or they can be given low dose cytarabine in combination with daily venetoclax. So those unfit patients or older patients, because of medical comorbidity, they can be given repetitive cycles of lower intensity therapy with a hypomethylating agent like decitabine or azacitidine, or they can be given a low dose cytarabine. So they can be given in combination with daily venetoclax. So as noted, a targeted IDH1 or IDH2 directed therapy is another consideration. So now a targeted IDH1 or IDH2 directed therapy, so this is also another consideration, and all patients, they should be considered for clinical trials. Investigational therapy remains the best option for many older patients, but especially those with adverse risk features. So with the 7 and 3 regimen, 60 to 80% of younger and 33 to 60% of older patients among those who are candidates for intensive therapy with primary AML achieve complete response. So with the 7 and 3 regimen, 60 to 80% of younger and 33 to 60% of older patients who are candidates, they with primary AML, they achieve complete response. So response rates around 60% have been similarly reported with the combination of HMA plus venetoclax in older or infirm patient groups. Of patients who do not achieve complete remission, most have drug resistant leukemia. So patients who are not achieving this complete remission, so they'll have this drug resistant leukemia. So induction death is more frequent with advancing age and medical comorbidity. So induction death, so this is more frequent when age advances and if there is a medical comorbidity. So patients with refractory disease after induction should be considered for salvage treatments, preferably on clinical trials. So induction is given, but still there is a refractory disease, so they should be considered for salvage treatments. And planning for the possibility of allogenic hematopoietic stem cell transplantation for all eligible patients under age 75 years is a part of optimal initial AML care. So first induction therapy has to be given, and later the possibility of allogenic hematopoietic stem cell transplantation for all eligible patients under age 75 years. So this is part of the optimal initial AML care. And typically allogenic hematopoietic stem cell transplantation is performed for patients in complete remission but who are at risk for relapse. See, patients are in complete remission after induction therapy, but there is a chance of relapse. So in those patients allogenic HCT is performed. But fit younger patients with primary refractory disease, so initial induction therapy is given, but still they have this primary refractory disease, that is they are not in remission after induction, so they have 15 to 20% cure rates with allogenic HCT, that is after myeloablative conditioning. So those who are not in remission, they have 15 to 20% cure rates with allogenic HCT after myeloablative conditioning. For this reason, early planning for possible future allogenic HCT, including HLA typing, donor search, etc., should be part of the initial approach for most AML patients. So first thing is induction therapy has to be given. So induction therapy has to be given so that first thing is induction therapy. So induction therapy has to be given, and later depending on the poor risk cytogenetics, further therapy can be planned. So according to the recent guidelines, so induction therapy is stratified according to the presence or absence of mutated FLT3. Okay, so AML with mutated FLT3. So patients who have this AML with mutated FLT3, here in addition to the normal regimen, here what else is added? We can add either midostaurin for any FLT3 mutation, or we can add this quizartinib. Okay, so these are the recent guidelines. FLT3 with internal tandem repeats to intensive induction chemotherapy. So patients with mutated FLT3, so we recommend midostaurin for any FLT3 mutation, or quizartinib for FLT3 with internal tandem repeats to intensive induction chemotherapy, that is along with cytarabine and anthracycline or idarubicin. So daunorubicin days 1 to 3, cytarabine days 1 to 7. So this midostaurin, so this is administered orally, 50 mg twice daily, oral midostaurin on days 8 through 21. And quizartinib, it is administered 35.4 mg orally once daily on days 8 to 21 of 7+3 therapy. So this quizartinib, it comes with a warning of QT prolongation, torsidas depointers and cardiac arrest. So this comes with the note of QT prolongation, torsidas depointers and cardiac arrest. So the QT interval should be assessed prior to initiating quizartinib and periodically during treatment. So if you want to administer quizartinib for FLT3 ITD, so then QT interval should be assessed. So hypokalemia and hypomagnesemia should be corrected. Hypokalemia and hypomagnesemia, it should be corrected. And treatment should not be initiated if QT interval is corrected by Friedreich's formula if it is greater than 450 milliseconds. And so midostaurin, so the US Food and Drug Administration, midostaurin in combination with chemotherapy with mutated FLT3 in adults, quizartinib 7+3 induction therapy, that is positive for FLT3 ITD but not for other FLT3 mutations. So this quizartinib, it is available only through a risk evaluation and mitigation strategy. So induction therapy based on presence of FLT3 mutations are there or not. If FLT3 mutations are there, midostaurin, FLT3 ITD mutations, then quizartinib. So this quizartinib QT interval prolongation has to be checked before starting quizartinib. And then normal patients without any FLT3 mutation, normal. So this along with intensive high dose cytarabine along with anthracycline. So here cytarabine along with anthracycline therapy has to be given. So post remission therapy, so this will be discussed.